Hey, I'm Abby, and welcome back to the Life Work Balance YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about the top 10 things that the best applicants tend to do during the interview process. Now, these are the things that set the best applicants apart from all of the other applicants. So these tips are intended to help you stand out so that you can really make your mark and hopefully move forward in the hiring process. Before we jump into that, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you're looking forward to learning those 10 tips. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life, work, balance advice delivered directly to you every week. So this video has 10 things that the very best candidates or applicants tend to do during job interviews. Now these aren't in any particular order. They're not in order of preference or anything like that. So please stay with me till the end because all of these tips are going to help you set yourself apart and stand out amongst the crowd of all of the other applicants that you could potentially be competing with for this new job. First and foremost, the best applicants talk about their experience in a really easy to follow way. They don't ramble, their responses are relatively short and concise and answer the interviewer's questions. It relates the experience that you do have to the experience that the interviewer is looking for this new role. You talk about your experience in an easy to follow way by using a simple formula. You've likely heard of the STAR method. My preference is the CAR method, which is very similar to the STAR method. And I have several videos on how to structure your answers to common behavior-based interview questions using this formula. I even have a whole video on how to talk about your experience during an interview. So if you're interested in learning more about specifically how to talk about your experience in an easy to follow way, check out those videos next. I've linked to them in the description box below, and I've linked to them up above as a card. When you are answering interviewers' questions, you don't want them to be scratching their head wondering why you're sharing this information with them. So you want a very simple, structured format so that you can structure your responses to their questions and they are easily able to follow you through your answer and understand why this is relevant to the question that they've asked you. You can actually prepare some of these responses ahead of time even when you don't know the questions that will be asked. You essentially are preparing your toolkit ahead of the interview so that when you are asked a question about a certain topic or theme, you can go into that toolkit, you can pull out your example response, and you can tailor it to the question that they've asked you during the interview. That's why preparation for an interview is key. You can't go into an interview expecting to have success by just winging it. You need to have some preparation ahead of time. Use the resources that are available to you to help you prepare, like the job posting, the company's website. All of these resources are places where you can identify potential questions that they could ask you, and then you can start to prepare your responses to those potential questions or themes, like how do you handle conflict? How do you work on a team? How do you collaborate? Tell me about a time you made a mistake. All of those different questions are things that you can prepare ahead of time before your interview so you don't feel like you have to make something up on the spot with every single question that comes through. The second thing that the best applicants do is they listen to understand, not just listen to respond. This truly demonstrates that you are hearing, interested, and invested in what the interviewer has to say and share. So you can qualify the interviewer's questions with your own questions to show that you truly are invested in what they are saying and sharing with you. You do not want this interview to be one way, meaning the interviewer is just asking you questions and you are just responding. You want it to be more conversational. And when you think about how you have typical conversations with people, there are questions and answers going back and forth from all of the various parties involved. So you want to qualify their questions with your own questions to demonstrate how you are listening to them during the interview, to show that you truly are invested and involved in this process. Which leads me to my third tip, which is having some questions prepared for the interviewer. Now, these might be questions that you have prepared relevant to the role or the culture or even the hard questions that you ask at the end of the interview. The goal is to get the interviewer talking. You want to ask them about themselves. Everyone has an ego. Everyone wants to talk about themselves. And research has actually shown that the more talking the interviewer does, the better they feel an interview goes. So if it truly is just one way, with them asking you questions and you responding, and you not involving in conversation with them, then they're probably going to feel like the interview was stale and not as engaging. And that's really important to making a decision on who's going to be the best fit for the position. We want the interviewers to feel good about themselves in this interview process. When they feel good about themselves, they will then also feel good about us. So we want to give ourselves the most advantage when it comes to these job interviews by boosting the ego of everyone involved, which means asking the interviewers about themselves, asking them questions at the end of the interview. The fourth thing that the best candidates typically do during the interview process is mention the research that they've done on the company. Now, this isn't directly saying, I researched your organization or I looked at your website and I saw this, but it's dropping some hints into the conversation that let the interviewer know that you have done your research. You've looked at the values on their website and you can talk about how the values align with your own values. You might mention something that you saw in the news associated with the company. Show that you've done your research on this company beyond just what is said in the job posting. The fifth thing that the best candidates do is they relate their direct experience to the job that they're applying to. This might even be as simple and straightforward as picking out points from the job posting and directly speaking to those points during the interview. It is your job to sell yourself to this interviewer, to show them how good of a fit you're going to be for this role. That means it's up to you to connect the dots for them. How does your experience directly translate to success in this role? What does this role do? What does this role need? And how are you going to be able to step into this role and generate value, not only for the team, but for the greater organization? The sixth thing great candidates do is they show that they are not one-dimensional. They are able to drop in the conversation some details about the things that they do outside of work. What interests, hobbies, or activities do you engage in outside of work that make you so much more than just an employee? Now, this isn't starting off a whole conversation with the tell me about yourself response by talking about all the things that you do outside of work. But you can drop little hints that show that you are so much more than just an employee and a worker bee during these conversations. Show that you have interests and hobbies and things that make you really unique and different. And those unique qualities and differences are what make you such a unicorn for this role. Now, you want to make sure that it somehow relates to the conversation that you're having with the interviewer or relates to the job that you're applying to. So you don't just want to randomly drop that information into the conversation. You want to make sure that it is relevant in some way, but do a good job of demonstrating how versatile and dimensional you are for this role and as a human being. The seventh thing that the best candidates do is have a great balance between confidence and humility. You don't want to be overly confident and cocky and turn the interviewer off with the ego that has stepped into this room. You want to show that you are confident in your skills and your ability, while also acknowledging that you have some shortcomings and maybe even some blind spots, that you have experienced failure. But even though you might have those shortcomings, that you have some blind spots or have experienced failure, what are you doing from a self-awareness perspective to help yourself improve, learn, grow, and develop? Balance humility and humbleness as well as confidence. It is important to have all of those different pieces as a human, and employers don't want someone who is too unsure of themselves or too overconfident and gets themselves in trouble. They want someone who has the confidence to step up when needed and also has the humility to acknowledge that they may have made a mistake or that they were wrong and to not be ruined by it. The eighth thing that great candidates do during the interview process is that they know and can communicate their worth. This comes down to the ability to negotiate salary and other benefits. Great candidates are not afraid to hold strong on their salary expectations and what they want and need from a role. If you're interviewing for a position and they lowball you, you are going to recognize your worth and decline the offer. This also means that you've done your research ahead of time and you know the market, you know the industry, and so you know what value you bring to this role, and you also know the value that you deserve from the organization. I've got a whole series of videos on how to negotiate your salary, so please check those out next if you're feeling a little bit nervous about this particular topic. The ninth thing that all of the best candidates do is that they tend to end the interview by clarifying next steps. They want to know what's coming next in the interview process. They want to know when the expected hiring date is. They want to know when they can expect to hear back from the hiring manager or the recruiter. They also end the interview by asking the interviewer if there is anything else they can clarify. These interviewees also have questions prepared at the end of the interview to answer their own questions about the role and the organization, the team, and even the manager. These interviewees want to make sure that they are finding an organization and a role that is also the best fit for them. So they're not afraid to clarify the information to make sure that they're making the best decision for them too. And finally, the 10th thing that all of the best candidates do is show or display professionalism and are polite. They say please, they say thank you. They show up on time, if not early. They don't make snarky or sarcastic comments to the interviewers during the interview itself. They don't talk poorly about previous coworkers or their old organization. They exude professionalism and are extremely polite during the process. Even if you are having a bad interview and you're realizing that this isn't the best fit for you, the best candidates are able to respectfully stop the interview early or are able to respectfully continue the interview, but then follow up with an email or a note notifying the recruiter or the hiring manager that this is not going to be a good fit for them. If you can engage in these 10 different behaviors and these 10 things that will help set you apart from the rest of the interviewees and candidates that are going through this process, you will likely find that you will have higher instances of being pushed forward to the next round of the hiring process, and you will likely have more conversations with the recruiter and the hiring managers. Give yourself the best opportunity to succeed. Show up in a professional way. Use these 10 tips to help yourself prepare for your next interview. And if you have any additional questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas on these 10 things that the best candidates do during the interview and the hiring process, please put them in the comments box below. I love receiving comments. I try to respond to each of them individually, but just know that if I'm not able to get back to you very quickly, your comments and the feedback that you share in the comments below will likely help someone else who's going through something similar in the future. If you are looking for more customized one-on-one help preparing for your upcoming interviews, or you would like feedback on how you show up virtually during these virtual interviews, or any other information when it comes to your job search or interview process, please contact me today. I offer one-on-one individual coaching for interview strategy sessions, mock interviews, and then also generalized career coaching to help you feel the most prepared for the next steps in your job search or the interview process. These spots are very limited. I have a certain number of slots available each week and they fill up quickly. So if you are in a position where you are interviewing or you are looking for a new job and you would like some additional support and help, please reach out to me today. I've linked to my email as well as my website in the description box below. And I would love to hear from you so that we can get something scheduled so you can feel the most prepared moving into this next step. If you found this video helpful, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can continue to receive life-work balance advice delivered directly to you every week. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.